Hi, I just wanted to finish up on the video fun times at the elder's house, home, excuse me. Um, so after, that situation happened and I was able to, you know, leave their home, I never went back again. And I told my parents that I would never, ever, ever go back to their home. I would never want to be in their presence alone ever again. I mean, I'm pretty sure they were fully aware of what happened because they instigated the whole scenario. But it was interesting because that elder's wife, a lot of the times, I mean, several times, she would come to the meeting with black eyes. So she was also a better wife herself. So I don't even think she could have stopped him from asking the son to be in the room with me in the first place. Um, Now that I think about it, um, there were in my congregation there were several abused women. It was pretty obvious, and no one ever really did anything about it. I remember there was one woman who her husband, he was not a Jehovah's Witness, but he routinely came and he would be in the parking lot yelling and screaming. He'd be right at the door, kicking it and screaming, saying, throwing things around. Like I think he threw a bottle once up against the building and asking her to come out, and he would yell and scream. And as a kid, I was terrified because I was like, oh my God, is he going to come in here and kill us or what? Because he was just crazy. He would be screaming her name and telling her to come outside because he was going to kill her. When she got out there, he was going to get her and she was going to get what she deserved. And I remember one night he was just really just loud. And after the meeting was over, the elders kind of took the woman to the back and talked to her for a second. And then they sent her outside so she could get her beating, I guess. And they never were concerned. They never called the police. They never did anything. I mean, they just, I don't understand how they shepherd their flock, but that was just always interesting to me how they never really tried to stand up for women or protect anyone in the congregation for that matter. It was all about the Watchtower Bible Tract Society and their almighty dollar. That was all they were concerned with. I had a friend whose mom was really short. She's probably like 5 foot and maybe like 100 pounds. And her dad was really tall. He was like 6'4", 6'5", like a really tall guy, really big guy. And I remember one day she called me over and said, well, she called me. She said, could you come over? My mom's been in her room for 4 days and she won't come out. So I said, okay, I'll come over. And I came over, and when I got in their house, it looked like it had been ransacked. It was crazy. I'd been in their house before, but I'd never seen this before. It looked like a thief or someone had broken in. And I went to their mom's bedroom and I said, just to protect her identity, we call her Sister Snowy. I said, Sister Snowy, it's me. Let me in. And she said, no. And I said, please, please let me in. I said, your daughter says you've been in here for, 4 days. I know you're hungry or something. You need some water, food, something. Please just let me in. So she finally agreed to let me in. And when she let me in, it looked like her nose was broken. She had a lot of bruises, black eye. Her shoulders, she was holding her shoulder in her hand. I convinced her to pack a bag for herself and get the kids to pack bags, and we left. We came to my house, which was about maybe 10 miles away, and I got her to hide her car in our garage, and she stayed with us for a little while. And I remember that night that she came, my mom went with her to the emergency room, and when she came back, they said she had a slight concussion, she had a dislocated shoulder, she had a broken nose, and a broken finger. And basically the reason why this happened was because her husband and her were having a conversation. She said she was cooking that night, and he said something to her, and she playfully said, you shouldn't do that. And she kind of, shook her finger at him, as in, kind of saying like, no, 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 or no, 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 or something like that. And he began to beat her. And she said that wasn't the first time that the elders had come to the hospital. Many times that was the only time he had put her in the hospital. And they would always come and say, oh, is it anything we can do for you? And I'm thinking, okay, like, this man is beating me. I mean, you couldn't offer me like, hey, let's help you get away from this person or nothing. No, they never did. They said, more or less, Jehovah be with you. And they kept it moving. And it was no different in this situation. They did her the same way. She called and told him, like, hey, he's done it again. He beat me up. I was at the hospital, blah, 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 whatever. And they more or less told her that she needed to go back to him and that she needed to be submissive. And apparently she wasn't being submissive enough. And because of that, that was what was going on. And that if she didn't return, it could possibly lead to her being disfellowshipped or possibly publicly reproved or something like that. And, they never, I don't even think they probably threatened her husband with any of those things. But she never went back. She actually kind of went into hiding. To this day, I think my mom hasn't had her phone number in years. She has my mom's phone number and she calls her. But I think the few times that we have had her phone number, it's always changed because she's still terrified that this man wants to kill her. And he told her that if he ever saw her again, he would. So, and I think he's still, last time I talked to my mom, I think he was still at the Kingdom Hall. And he's still, actually, I think they moved him up to ministerial servant now. So, they didn't take any privileges away from him. In fact, they embraced him, and what he was done and doing, because I guess they just saw her as an unsubmissive wife and she deserved all the beatings that she got. The sad part is that her brother was an elder at the congregation and his brother was an elder at the congregation. They both had come to the hospital after he had hit her previous times and said, oh, what can we do to help? And I was just like, that's just, I couldn't, I just couldn't believe it. It was just crazy. Like, they talk about all the love they have for one another. Really, they talk about shepherding the flock. That's how you do it. That's how you protect sheep. That's what you do. I guess the only protection the elders are really supposed to protect people from, and is protecting them from waking up. That's the protection that they want. Any other thing outside of that, they're really not interested in. The funny thing is that I was baptized when I was about 12. And I really wish I never would have got baptized, but I did it because I felt like at an early age I realized this, the only way to survive being a Jehovah's Witness is to do what my parents said, and when I got old enough I could leave. So they wanted me to be baptized, so I did. I did it to be the status quo at the time, and I felt like even then I realized I was like a POW. I just knew when I was going to be able to get out. And when I turned about 18 or 19, by 19 I decided, that I was going to, I moved out of my mom's house and I left, and I haven't been back since, and I won't ever go back to that because it's the most horrible existence that you can imagine, growing up in that situation or growing up within that organization. And I don't suggest anyone to put their children in that situation, for them to grow up in that environment. It's a very bad environment to be exposed to. Very bad environment. I think the next video that I make, I will talk a little bit about how myself and one of my siblings was molested by a family of Jehovah's Witnesses when I was much younger. This was when I was about 5 or 6. So I guess I will see you in the next video. Have a good night.